Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to my good friend, the ranking member, Mr. Jordan. Recently, another friend of ours and our colleague, Congressman Burgess Owens, who grew up in the Jim Crow South, testified before my committee, and I want to highlight two very important points he made. Not only is our country not facing a new era of Jim Crow voting laws, as many of my Democrat colleagues have falsely claimed, but it's incredibly offensive to lie to the American people to further a political agenda. Our country has come a long way since the Jim Crow era, and it's in part because of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. More Americans voted in the last two elections than in any midterm or presidential election in our nation's history. This includes historic turnouts among African Americans and other minority voters. We should celebrate this progress, not ignore it. Using Georgia as an example, since my friends on the other side of the aisle were so quick to condemn new election integrity laws in this state, in Georgia, which was once covered under the VRA's pre-clearance formula, African-American turnout in the last election was at 64%, compared to 27% in 1965. And an amazing 95% of the total eligible voting age population in Georgia is registered to vote. That's incredible. It's easier to vote in Georgia than it is in Democrat-run states like New York and Delaware, and even others. Democrats on the Committee on House Administration held hearing after hearing on election issues where they produced zero evidence of voter suppression, likely due to the fact that voter discrimination and suppression remain against the law in this country. Yet the bill before us goes far beyond the original VRA and would subject every state to pre-clearance, an extraordinary measure established in 1965 to prevent Democrat-led southern states with a history of discrimination from intimidating and preventing African Americans from voting. If you vote for this legislation, you are voting for a federal takeover of elections. You are removing people elected at the state and local level to run elections from making decisions about how elections are run, including voter ID laws, and putting an unaccountable, unelected election czar at the DOJ, the Attorney General, in charge of all election decisions in this country. Members of this body and the American people should be asking the simple question. If it's easier to vote today than at any time in our history and more Americans are voting than ever before, then why are Democrats going to such extreme measures to ensure a federal takeover of elections? I hope my colleagues and the American people will see this bill for what it is, a partisan power grab which circumvents the people to ensure one-party rule. I urge a no vote on the underlying legislation. And, Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a report I released as the ranking member of House Administration earlier this month titled "The Elections Clause, States' Primary Constitutional Authority Over Elections."
Without objection.
Thank you, and I yield back.